Over the past 68 years of gaming, we've grown a lot. We went from really simple games on the Atari to getting complex and layered storytelling in the modern era. And in the years since video games had stories, these stories have had villains that are just way too iconic for their own good. But one of the most iconic villains in video games is Vergil from Devil May Cry. There's no need to introduce this dude. We all know him pretty well. And over the past 25 years of Devil May Cry, Vergil has only shown up in 3 games, at least in the main line, and 4, but 5 if you want to count him when he was Nello Angelo. Despite this short time in the games and him merely being a DLC only character, he's an icon to not just Capcom, but to video game antagonists as a whole. That's partially because of Barry the Light, but there's like a lot of other reasons why Vergil is pretty well known. Like my Dante video, I intend to rank each of his designs. This includes his variants like Urizen V and Nello, mainly because while those characters aren't technically Vergil himself, they do still serve to be part of Vergil as a person, and they are different parts of his personality, therefore I will count them. But also, like the Dante video, I won't include costumes or alternative colors, nor will I include devil triggers with the exception of V, since V's devil trigger is just like his actual white hair. But before we begin, be sure to like and subscribe. I don't always do video essays and rankings, as I usually just do playthroughs, fun gameplay, and streams occasionally now. So if you're into that, you should stick around for more. Anyways, let's begin. Starting off, we have Final Form Urizen. I'm going to be totally honest, this isn't even a bad design, but it's just a little uncanny and weird. I don't hate this design, but I vastly prefer how he looks whenever he has the Cliflof tendrils on his body. The only cool aspect of this design is really just the spectacle of seeing it in his boss fight, since it is a pretty fun boss fight in my personal opinion, but that's gameplay thing, so I'm not really going to talk too much about that. But aside from that, it's not really that great design-wise in my opinion. I guess the design is supposed to show he's gotten stronger, doesn't need the roots, which is fair since he is thinner and more loosened up. But again, it doesn't really look anywhere as near as imposing as his tendril look, in my opinion. Though I do appreciate this design mainly because of Visions of V showcasing that despite this being Vergil's demonic side, it's still Vergil. Like, it looks like him, it is him personified as a little boy and all that. So I do appreciate it just like story-wise, but anything else, it's kind of whatever. Again, not a terrible design, but I'm gonna have to put this one at dismal. Again, not entirely terrible, like not shit, but it's kind of butt. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't really care for it that much. Now then, Netflix Vergil was a bit curious for me. I always found it so odd that Dante looked almost nothing like his game counterparts aside from, you know, red coat, white hair, blue eyes, and rebellion, and whatever the fuck. But it was just like a mishmash of like aspects of 5 and 3, with Season 2 then just giving him like that fuck-ass onesie and long hair. But Vergil looked completely like his original self. That was until I began looking closer and realizing that he does not look the exact same as his 3 counterpart, let alone 4. He has no brown on the design, which kind of throws me off because I think giving Vergil brown boots and brown gloves was a neat color contrast to that really bright blue color that was on the coat. But aside from that, like there are other aspects that also bother me, mainly just like the boots aren't the same. Like they're these weird like metal guiders or whatever the fuck, and he doesn't even have the hair bangs, so his face just looks kind of fat. So this is Esper saying this after the recording of the video. I double checked and my bitch ass was wrong. He does have a singular hair bang, but his face and everything still looks fat. This thick ass fat faced fuck. This motherfucker's face is still fat, and the anime don't be doing me any favors. And yeah, there's a couple shots where he looks a little normal, but his shit's still fat with a PH. Plus, he has these weird-eye yellow mustard shit things on his shits that also throw me off since the balance of colors on DMC3 Vergil is perfect. But we can talk about that once we get to the cathedral, bro. I don't hate his look as much as Netflix Dante, but his design just does not inspire any confidence in me to say that he looks cool. Part of it is the art style, because I'm not really a fan of this anime's art style. I don't think it's completely garbage, but again, it just, some of the characters just look weird. I talked about this with Dante, and I feel the same way about Vergil. And there's a lot of other details that just, they're just thrown around and forgotten about, you know? Like, I feel like the idea that Vergil has like metal boots or whatever just again, it just feels so off-putting to me, mainly because I'm kind of used to Virgil just having the brown boots, you know, or the brown gloves and the hair bangs and whatnot. The fact that they took those away, it makes me wonder, like, what was the point? I mean, I'm not saying that, oh, you have to make the story one-to-one, but, like, I would have appreciated if Virgil just kind of stayed the same color scheme-wise, but whatever, man. I guess I could just go fuck myself. Then again, it has very few good character designs. Like the entirety of the Netflix anime's character designs are just not really good, with like a couple that are just diamonds in the rough. But even then, that's kind of just the best out of the pile of garbage. And even then, this is like the only acceptable one, but it's not great. I guess you can maybe infer that the boots are soldier-like because of his relation to Mundus in the show, but even then, it's still a whatever look. I'm putting this on the same tier as Final Form Urizen, because again, both the designs are just whatever. They're not completely shit out of the butt, but they're also just not really great. Oh well. Next, we got Urizen with the tendrils. All I've got to say is that, I mean, it's a pretty cool design. Not the coolest demon design in the franchise, but he looks good, and I like that they intentionally designed it to look scary. The tendrils and the added meat flesh pieces on him just make him look like a wall of mass and blood and all that. And I mean, speaking of blood, he looks even cooler when he is covered in blood. I don't know what it is, but like that blood red mixed with like the vibrant blue, it just looks really cool to me, man. I really like it. And you know, like the slow movements in his second fight and him just chilling in the chair, like he looks like a boss, dude. I absolutely love it. They add to the gravity, weight, and scale of the design. I don't have a whole lot to say about him because I feel like I've said enough to justify why it's a cool design. But we're gonna move on to the next one. But we're gonna put him in a specific tier that I think he deserves, and that tier is crazy. Again, not a whole lot to say about Tendril Urizen, but hey, again, he's still pretty dope. Nello Angelo is such a great character design. I mean, it's fucked up what they did to him in the Netflix anime. I mean, come on, this is like a night and day comparison. But I've always liked how the Angelos resemble humans in a way that was really uncanny, but it was kind of neat. I like it across the games, and they do it in a way that makes me appreciate each one of their designs in their own respective manners, especially my boy Cavalier. He's probably my favorite next to Nilo. And I like that Nilo has such sharp features. From his design, you can see he has the definitive features of a knight. He's valiant, respectful to his leader, always focused, and there's a level of honor to him. I mean, Dante even says that he's got honor and guts, and, you know, he tells him, like, you know, maybe if you weren't working with Mundus, like, I wouldn't have to beat Shira. Well, he doesn't say that verbatim, but, I mean, you might as well have implied that if Nello Angelo didn't work for Mundus, maybe he would actually respect him a little bit more. The other demons in DMC 1, though, they all look inhumane, monstrous, weird, whatever the hell, right? But, you know, they're not as weird as Nightmare. I don't even know how to describe that goop monster. But Nello is such a memorable look because he looks so human and carries that idea of a knight in his design. He stands out amazingly, dude. He doesn't play dirty, he doesn't do any cheap tricks. It's such a human aspect, and despite it not entirely being Vergil, I still count this since it is part of his identity, like I mentioned before. It's very rooted in some aspects of Vergil's humanity, on top of him looking very bold and sophisticated. Kind of like, you know, what Vergil is really all about. There's also the fact that he never once attacks Dante unwarranted or by surprise. He never plays dirty, and he always shows up ready for a fair fight and ready to just square up on equal terms. And again, like I said, Dante says to him he's got guts and honor. Dante doesn't even like demons, yet he had respect for Nello because Nello was so different from the others. I'd also like to bring up the fact that this is a cool detail that I think definitely does kind of play into the character, but I like that his name was originally supposed to be Nero Angelo, but, you know, mistranslations and all that, you know, this isn't anything new with it when Japanese stuff comes over to America. But the name Nero, if you know, means black, and so his name would be Black Angel, and I feel like it reflects both Nello and Vergil pretty well. You know, since Black Angels are basically dark angels, and those are considered to be angels that have fallen from grace and turned to the side of evil. And this is perfect for those characters, and I love how well the design reflects these aspects. With all that being said, I'm going to put him in the badass tier. He definitely deserves badass tier. I love Nello, and hopefully we can get a remake for this game so we can see this awesome design in a modern Capcom engine. damn, I know that would look cool as hell. Now then, here we got my dude, Reboot Vergil. And I have quite the history with this guy. I used to hate and resent this design. I had so much hatred in my heart for him and this game because I used to view the reboot in such a negative light without giving it the benefit of the doubt. But after playing the game, instead of seeing cutscenes and walkthroughs, mind you, I only did that because I was broke, but I actually, was provided the game. And I appreciate the game a little bit more. And alongside playing the base game and Vergil's Downfall, which I had never seen Vergil's Downfall before, this was my first time seeing it, I like this version of Vergil. Despite it being a reboot, his design still reflects those neat details that OG Vergil always had. He looks sophisticated, his face is bold and defined, he keeps himself well put together, and he's never seen without his gloves, and that kind of tells you what kind of person he is, and I love him for that. And I like that in so many of his cutscenes he holds the Yamato in a way that makes him feel like a leader, above the rest of his squad. He holds himself higher mentally due to him having a similar mindset as OG Vergil, where he thinks he's superior to everyone else because of his lineage. The other characters look like they don't even belong in the same room as him because they're all tattered, dirty, or they even just look like regular people. But this Vergil, he looks like royalty. He looks special. He looks like a king. And it fits well. I especially appreciate this design even more after the DLC where he sees that ghost version of himself, Hollow Vergil, and that Hollow Vergil looks almost like OG Vergil in a sense, where he has that bold character design to him that gives him confidence and gives him like an aura of power. It makes him look superior, and it's the idea that Vergil wants to look superior at all times. He wants to be the one out of everyone else who stands out the most. And I really like that. And the one time where he doesn't look the most bold, the most confident, the most powerful is in the DLC where his mental is completely ruined and shattered. There's so much of his character reflected in this design that it is honestly so great, and it's such a fucking shame that we won't get to see this version of Vergil continue on his arc anymore. Again, man, this is such a great character design that I used to hate, but eventually I kind of gave it appreciation, and I really, really liked this version of Vergil as both the character and again his design. Shame we won't get to see more of this universe, but you know what, man? I'm glad we had it in general, and that's what I can appreciate at the very least. DMC3 Vergil goes in S tier. That itself isn't the hot take, but you'll see. This design is iconic, and I'd argue it's more recognizable than any of his other designs so far. After all, this design was in DMC4, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and a couple other crossover media that included Vergil in some way. I love the color contrast of this design, man, as it makes the details so much more vibrant and alive, and I've always been fond of his hair having those loose bangs. It's funny, because despite him being meant to look like Dante, he still looks different even with the hair down, and that's all thanks to the facial expressions, the body language that they put in both, again, this design and his personality. I really like it. You see Vergil walking around with confidence, he looks sophisticated, he radiates the energy of like a businessman, someone focused and dedicated to his goal. And the fact that he also wears the vest with the ascot tie, it just adds to that, like, detail of him being sophisticated on top of him sweeping back his hair like anytime he gets, the scene. He almost looks like a CEO again. Like, I really like that detail of him. And it would make sense because, like I mentioned with Reboot Vergil, he wants to look like royalty. He wants to be the one who stands out above the rest. He wants to look professional, well kept. And that's really neat. It kind of adds to his human side, I think, which is kind of funny given the fact that, he does not really like his human side, but he keeps himself well kept because of presentation and all that. It also gives off the energy that he's still maybe somewhat attached to that side of himself, but at the same time, he is obviously like, yeah, I don't really rock with being a human. This shit sucks. And there's also the fact that, his facial expressions are so well done in this game. Like, you rarely see Vergil smile in this game, and the one time he does, there's just so much behind it that just makes it really cool. I love this design, and I love that nearly every render of Vergil with this design radiates that energy I mentioned. I don't know a single soul that hates this Vergil design, and if you hate this Vergil design, you're fat. So again, S tier, literally one of the most iconic designs ever, and I fucking love DMC3 Vergil a lot. This dude was alive for 2 days before meeting Dante, and alive for a month before fusing back. Of course, I'm talking about my boy V. I would like to say, if you don't like this design, you're extremely fat. but I can understand it not being a favorite. As a 2000s kid, V's design activates a neuron in my brain because I love coats and jackets and all those edgy ass things that existed during that time with like a lot of character designs and stuff. I love that this outfit was stolen though, but I guess that means that, Vergil might have some taste. But even then, this design does have quite a lot of personality within it. The all black look shows that Vergil's completely fallen. Again, that fallen angel thing that I mentioned. There's no sophistication. There's little confidence in the way that he carries himself. His frail and weak body shows that he's mentally weak, broken, and when he starts falling apart, it means that Vergil's humanity is slowly fading as Urizen gains more power. And I like that the nightmares are like attached to V as like tattoos, because not only do they serve as a reminder to what V has experienced, but they serve as the fact that he has yet to overcome his nightmares. He has yet to beat the nightmares, the pain, the broken mentality. He has yet to actually fix himself. And I like that. It's really cool. It adds to those details I mentioned from before. But despite this, he attempts to keep himself at least a little well-dressed and a little presentable, especially because there is one taunt where he does sweep his hair back. I think he also does it in one of his like game animations or his combat animations where he sweeps his hair back just a little bit. So some part of him is still there. He's still trying to look cool and all that, but the confidence isn't 100% there. Do I blame him? Fucking no. But I mean, at least I appreciate him for trying to look cool. So that's something, right? Also, I'd like to say that V with the white hair, mwah, chef's kiss. Love that design so much, man. Like, you can say whatever you want about V's design, but listen, man, I'm definitely not gonna listen to anybody who's gonna say that, oh, V doesn't look cool with the white hair. Dude, V with the white hair fucking rocks. I love it. I love it, man. Again, my dude going in S. Non-negotiable. I'm not hearing anybody out. If you try to talk to me about this design being bad, it's like a brick wall, bro. Finally, we got the Alpha and Omega himself, DMC5 Vergil, man. This is my favorite character design for Vergil. Ignore the fact that the gameplay is probably going to be riding. It's just because I liked that video. It's fun to do. But anyways, I love this Vergil a lot, and that's mostly because V makes me appreciate Vergil so much. But again, this design is really cool. You got the tattered tailcoat and the black color of it shows how beaten down and faded Vergil had become after what happened to him. The nightmares really messed this dude up. But despite that, there's still those blue colors that show that, hey, Vergil's still very much there. Kind of like what I mentioned with Dante's design in DMC5, where even if the colors are faded, even if his personality seemed a little bit less exuberant as before, there's still that part of Dante that is very much there within that character. And I really like that representation. It's pretty good. And they do the exact same thing for Vergil. And this is him at his best. His posture is good. His expressions, they feel so human. He shows that he's overcome everything. You see him smiling and shit, I really like that. That smile he gives to Dante is just enough. It makes me honestly think, if Vergil had never been so traumatized and didn't unhealthily manifest his pain, this is what he could have been. He could have been just like, yeah, he would have been brooding, but he could have been a happy guy who just still enjoyed his life. And my reason for saying that is because when he's a kid, he still shows that he has this very serious and focused persona. He really likes books. He kind of keeps to himself. That's just how he is. It makes me think that Vergil would have been like that throughout his life as an adult, regardless of what happened to him. DMC5 shows us the perfect culmination of that. He's okay with being human. He's okay with who he is. There's many layers to this design, similar to DMC5 Dante. And seeing these two together, they look great. Dante looks so rugged, simple, and tired. But, you got Vergil who looks bold, clean, and confident. Their colors are faded, but they're those same boys who live happily with their mom. And, I've heard some people mention they're not fond of this Vergil design because, the face model isn't that good. He has no hair bangs. He doesn't look like Dante. You're a poopy head, respectfully. So again, this Vergil, peak. Absolute cinema. Love this design so much. You'll never convince me otherwise. If you try to convince me, bad things will happen to you when you sleep because I lurk and stall. With all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you disagree with these placements, I curse you with 10 hours of Netflix lady cussing. I was requested to make this video and I figured why not, since Vergil is my favorite antagonist in fiction and I absolutely love this guy. So I felt that, dedicating a video to my favorite villains, like different designs and takes on his designs, would be kind of cool to do. Again, great ass villain, awesome character. Love my boy Vergil, bro. So, anyways, be sure to like, subscribe, share this with your friends, your family, your boyfriend, girlfriend, and share it with your dog. I'll catch you guys in the next one, man. Peace out. God bless. Have a great day.